Hey, so I'm currently on my last year of college, but before I was at my 4 year at CSULB, I was at a junior college, and before that I was in a private high school. And in private school, I was just kind of very sheltered, but now I've kind of experienced the real world in a way. I've learned that self-defense skills is kind of a must, and you've probably had some instances where you realize the same thing, but today I'm just gonna share mine. So the first thing is just alcohol plus woman equals fights. You've probably seen the memes where it's like when a group of girls walk by and my bro puts me in a headlock or something like that. And I don't know the reason why men do this, but I could confirm this is true. Like one time in high school, I was in a history class and we had to get into groups. And it was me, my friend who was also on the football team, and this girl. And she was like half European, half Asian. Like she was very attractive. She was also a cheerleader. And we were just working on our history project, and out of nowhere he was like, "Gabe, you know I'm gonna route you up in practice today, right?" And at the time he was a receiver, I was a corner, so he was referring to football practice later that day. And when he said this, I was really confused because this was when I was a senior, and all 4 years of high school, he's never spoken to me like that at all. So I was a little bit confused. You know, of course later on I realized he was just trying to impress the girl we were in a group with. So yeah, it's just natural that guys get a little bit more aggressive when the girls are around. And when I was playing football at junior college, the way our training was scheduled is we would be going into the weight room at the same time the women's soccer team would be leaving. So we would pass by them. And all the time, like I had this one friend who would just start wrestling us whenever the girls were around. And it's like we never wrestle any other time, just whenever we pass by the girls. Like he suddenly starts becoming, Habib Nurmagomedov. And I'm sure there's some science behind it. I'm not sure why, but for whatever reason, guys get a little bit more aggressive when the girls are around. So when you go to something like a bar, or if you're in college like me, a college party, or the club, where there's usually like a lot of attractive women around, guys get a little bit aggressive. And when you throw in like loud music into the mix and the flashing lights and alcohol, there's usually some fights that go on. Well, I think that's why bar fights are such a common thing. Just the mixture of all that stuff kind of leads to violence. There's a coach online called K. John Johnson, and he said, the best way to avoid street fights is just avoid anywhere where there's alcohol. But if you're a college student like me, there'd be times where even if you don't go to the parties, you'll still be coming home from class late at night and you'll pass by like a bunch of drunk kids. So it kind of is unavoidable for the most part. Also, I used to live in England, and there it's legal for you to step outside of the bar and drink. So like I bet kids when they're walking home from school, they'll have to encounter like a bunch of drunk grown men. So yeah, this is just like a really big reason to learn martial arts if you're in college. So my first year of martial arts, I mainly did Muay Thai, and for the most part, that's what I mostly do. But I had this striking coach who was a professional MMA fighter, and he was just a really great guy. Whenever there was a new person at the gym, he would always do his best to make them feel welcome. Like he would go up to them after class and just ask them a couple questions and just be really warm and friendly. But he was always extra nice to, people in high school and college students, like people around my age. I'm not sure why. I think maybe because maybe he saw a little bit of himself in us, or since we're younger, he thinks that he could make a bigger difference in our lives compared to the older people at the gym. But either way, he was just a really great guy. I haven't seen him in a while because he moved to a different gym. Also, I'm away at college now, so yeah, but we used to have a sparring class every Friday. So yeah, I'd spar, and then after class, I'd go up to him and thank him for the class, and then he would just say, "Hey Gabe, you did really good today. Like you did good with this, but just make sure you work on this, that, and this, because I saw you're getting hit with that quite a bit." Like just gave me some feedback about how I did and how to improve. But then he would also give me like some really good advice about whatever. Sometimes it was on nutrition, sometimes it was on dating, sometimes it was about like keeping healthy relationships, sometimes it was like financial advice. Like he would just give like really, really good advice. But on my last Friday sparring session I had with him, the day I went to my 4 year at CSULB, I was sparring him, and usually he goes like 30% because he's a professional fighter. I've only been training for like 6-7 months at this point. But one day he wasn't going 100% because if he did, I probably would have got knocked out. But he was going like, I don't know, a lot harder than he usually did. And he was like, "Come on, hit me hard." And like I started going a little bit harder too. And yeah, he was like, "Good job." And by the end of it, my nose was actually bleeding, and he was like, "Oh, go to the bathroom, clean yourself up really quick, and then come back." And yeah, I did that, went back to the training, and I was like, yeah, that was a little bit intense. But after training, I went up to him, like expecting to have our usual talk, like he gives me my feedback and sometimes some other really good advice. But this time he just looked at me like super seriously, and he said, "Our value as men is based off our ability to kill." And he was just talking about cavemen, like their ability to hunt is kind of how they are valued. But then he also said, "One day you will have a beautiful family, and there will be someone who tries to kill you, and you must kill him, because if you don't kill him, he will kill you and kill your family." And I was like, wow, that's intense. Like, and I was a little bit confused because, you know, he doesn't usually have that tone with me. But then his tone switched up completely and he was like, so yeah, just make sure when you go to college, just make sure you keep training. When you come back, I want you to be even better. Yada, yada, yada. And yeah, I didn't take what he said very seriously at first. I thought he was referring to like, I don't know, a knight like in Monty Python was just gonna come up to me one day and like whip out the scroll and be like, Gabriel Tully, I challenge you to a duel to the death. You know, I was just a little bit confused on what he was talking about. But then I was thinking, I've actually had a couple friends who've had some instances where, you know, they're with their girlfriend and, you know, some drunk dude or some teenager like starts harassing their girlfriend. So my coach gave a pretty extreme example, but I feel like there's going to be times where you have to kind of protect your loved ones. Also, my brother lives in San Francisco right now, and all of San Francisco is different, but for the majority, if you go on a 5-minute walk in San Francisco, you'll probably pass by like 12 homeless people. And for the most part, homeless people are harmless. Like, they're usually just your friendly neighborhood homeless people. Like, you will see people shooting up also, but you know, they never really bother anyone. They're just there doing their drugs. But once in a while, you will get a homeless person who kind of comes a little bit too close for comfort with you, or if you're with someone, like, gets a little bit too close for comfort with them. So yeah, with martial arts, it would just be nice to have the ability to be able to just say with confidence, hey, could you back up a tiny bit to a homeless person if something like that ever happens. So yeah, that's just another reason to learn martial arts or to learn how to fight and like not be worried that they're gonna hurt you. I feel like it's just an important ability to have. And this doesn't just go for homeless people, but you know, like I said, people harassing your girlfriend or just other people like that in the world. And also if the scenario my coach gave does really happen, like, you know, I'd want to be prepared. Alright, so the last reason is just people with different moral compasses. So my first year of junior college, fresh out of my private high school, well, it was high school, then it was quarantine, and then I was in junior college. But one time I was just sleeping in my apartment complex, which is basically a dorm at the time because it was right next to the school and there was a bunch of other students in it. And it was like 3 a.m. And one of my good friends who was a teammate at the time, he was just banging on my door at 3 a.m. And when I answered, he just asked me, hey, could you come with me? Basically what happened was the girl he was talking to, she got beat up by her ex-boyfriend. And we just had to go to her house and, you know, drop off some supplies like some water and some food and just make sure she was okay. But anyways, we went to her house, which was not really a house. It was kind of like, you know, a shack in the woods. And he went in first just to like make sure she was okay. And then I got the text, hey, can you bring in the stuff now? So yeah, I just carried in like the water bottles and the food. And yeah, when I got in, I'm not going to be too graphic, but yeah, she was pretty badly beaten up and she was still like pretty scared and stuff from what just happened like 40 minutes ago. But anyways, yeah, we took her home. Like, she ended up staying at his house for a couple days or weeks. I forgot, just in case, you know, her crazy ex came back. And I went to bed. But that was just the first instance for me where I came across the person who had a very different moral compass than me. I never actually ended up seeing the guy in person, but just like seeing the result of what he did. So yeah, this third point kind of ties into, you know, what my coach said in my previous point. Like, you know, you're gonna have to come across people like that. Like, so yeah, if you ever come across these people in real life, like, luckily I haven't yet, but if I do, you know, I definitely want to, like, you know, be prepared. So yeah, just another reason why it might be a good idea to learn some martial arts if you haven't already. So one last thing is, the couple weeks after that situation happened, I'd actually have kind of fantasies about, yeah, like, what if the guy who beat the girl came to my apartment complex and, you know, I saw him and I confronted him and I beat him up, and, you know, I was talking to a girl at the time. Like, I'd be fantasizing, what if we are going to my apartment and we run into him and, you know, I like beat him up and, you know, I become the village hero or whatever. Like, I'd kind of think about that and be like, yeah, that would be badass. But the thing is, when it comes to people who haven't done martial arts or know about fighting or have never fought or trained before, there's how they think they would do in a fight and how they would actually do. And a lot of times there's a massive difference. I see this every day with new people that come to the gym. I actually sometimes teach the intros class to striking. So yeah, sometimes like I'll pads for them and it's like, damn, like if you ever got into a fight, it probably wouldn't end well. Or that's just what I think in the back of my head. Of course, I was the same way when I first started training. Whenever you start something new, you're going to be horrible at it. But I also see this when it's people's first time sparring. Just yesterday, it was a new boxer's first time sparring, and he kind of tried to knock out my friend, but my friend was just like block, and the dude gassed out. And luckily my friend's nice, so then he just like kept jabbing him, but man, like that could have been really bad for him. And I'm not saying I would have lost if I did run into him, but there was a good chance I would have, and it definitely wouldn't have worked out the way I envisioned it. So yeah, what I'm trying to say is, make sure you go to a gym and get a coach and, you know, get someone to watch you and give you feedback if you do want to learn how to fight. Like, there's no such thing as a self-taught martial artist. Like, I see people who come to the gym I work at, like, I'll ask, how much experience do you have, just so I know which class to put them in, and they'll be like, oh yeah, I just have 5 years training, like, you know, I hit the bag in my garage and, you know, just been training by myself. And then when I see them like hit the pads or whatever, it's like, man, and it makes a big difference to have a coach giving you feedback than, you know, just training by yourself. I was actually the same way when I first went to college. I would just go into the gym, hit the bag by myself, but, you know, coach came up to me and he was like, bro, you know, you're not going to get better if you don't have someone watching you. And yeah, because of that, you know, I just got a lot better than what I usually am. I still have a long way to go. I've been an athlete for 8 years, but I've only been training martial arts for about 2 years now, and I've worked at an MMA gym for 1 year. So I still have a lot to learn. But yeah, if you're interested in what I say, you know, make sure to hit the subscribe button. Like, this channel is mainly for, you know, beginners to martial arts. Like, let's get good at fighting together. And if you haven't joined the gym yet, I actually have a video on 5 tips or 5 things you should know before you go to your first martial arts gym. Just like tips on what to do, what not to do, what to bring, and all of that. And if you have any questions about anything, like anything you think I could help with, just drop it in the comment section below, and I'll either just respond to it or might even do a video on it if I decide to. But I really appreciate you watching until the end, and I'll see you in the next video.